Okay, so as you know, sessions are being recorded. I think the links will be made available to participants afterwards so you can hear other sessions, which will be really nice. Everyone comes in with a muted mic. I have heard word that some people's mics are spontaneously unmuting. So if that happens, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. But you can, I think, unmute yourself if you need to speak. Each session will be 20 minutes, including Q&A. We'll be handling Q&A through the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat along with Peter's help and helping bring those questions to our speakers' attention. So only unmute yourself during the Q&A session, okay? Oops, don't know what happened there, sorry about that. I think that is it for housekeeping items. We want to thank our sponsors very much for sponsoring the conference. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to our first speaker, Becky Bowen from North Carolina State University.
Great. Hello, everyone. I am going to start sharing my screen. All right. So my name is Becky Bowen, and I am, as Kristen said, with NC State Extension and Community and Rural Development. And I am the project manager of a USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program grant that we received 3 years ago. And the name of the project is called Fork to Farmer, but as one of our sort of afterthoughts, we added on to this Fork to Farmer grant a project called Vacationer Supported Agriculture. And I reported on this at last year's NACDEP conference and gave the results of the pilot program. And this is a follow-up to that. And let's get right into it. So, what Vacationer Supported Agriculture is a program that connects vacationers within the state of North Carolina to the local farmers. And it's like a CSA, only we offer a bag of local produce to vacationers the week that they are vacationing. So it's a way to connect them with the local farmers in their vacation destination. And we found that most of the people who take part in the program are very active locavores. They typically participate in CSAs at home. So what we do, we have self-catered vacation home rentals, the rental companies that rent them, and we also work with destination management organizations like TDAs and CVBs, and we connect all of those entities with the small farmers in the area. So here you can see sort of a graphic image of how the program works, and you see that there are several different players. So in the center here, you can see our program, Vacationer Supported Agriculture. The first people that we reach out to are vacation realty companies because they're the ones who have the customer lists. We have to get their buy-in to the program. And what they do is they send an email to their customers telling them that there is this opportunity to buy produce from local farmers. So we engage from the university base, we engage with the local extension offices, the DMO or TDA, and also chambers of commerce. We consider them our community stakeholders to help us market the program. And then with extension in particular, we connect with local farmers to start bagging up the produce for us. We also work with an online retailer, so ordering the bags is just a click away for the customer base. And then we communicate with the farmers. We have an aggregator who will collect the produce from the farmers, bag it up, and then make deliveries on Saturdays of every week during the high summer season at the North Carolina beaches. So we started in 2018 with a beach called Ocean Isle Beach. It just happens to be the beach where my family has a condo that we rented out and that we have a relationship with a rental company there. So here you can see we had sort of a different listing of produce that typically is available and is harvested in each of the months there. The customer would be directed to buy a produce bag for the week that they are vacationing. So in 2018, we piloted it at Ocean Isle Beach, which is in Brunswick County, which is a southern beach in, or southeastern county, very near the South Carolina line, very close to Myrtle Beach if you have ever been to that much larger tourist destination. We sold about 75 bags, I believe, that first summer over a 12-week period, which doesn't sound like much, but it was a pilot. We had about $5,000 worth of sales. In 2019, we expanded it to include 4 other beaches in Brunswick County, so a total of 5 beaches in Brunswick County. And then into the neighboring county, Pender County, we piloted it in 1 beach there. And then also New Hanover County. And so in a 1-year period, we went from just 1 realty, 1 beach, and $5,000 in sales to 12 realties in 3 counties. We sold over 1,200 bags and sold over $50,000 in sales. So that felt like a huge success to us, and we generally got positive responses. The price was, they were pretty satisfied with it, but the bags are more expensive than you would typically get. And when you join a CSA, the bags are $45 a bag. They get about 10 pounds of produce. We advertise it as 3 meals for a family of 4. And we try to help them plan their meal making for the week by telling them in advance what the produce is that's going to be in the bag. So we found what we did at the conclusion of last year, and we did this actually in 2018, we did survey all of the people who put bags, and we got both positive and negative feedback, as you might imagine. Most of the people, like I said before, who were buying the bags are very interested in supporting local farmers. And so they appreciated the opportunity to support local farmers in their vacation destination. They also were very appreciative of the convenience of pickup. What we did is we typically would arrange for drop off of the bags at the realty companies that they were renting their properties through. In some of the beaches, we actually had a public pickup site, like one of the beach marts that everybody's familiar with and is very convenient on their way to the beaches. We had some negative comments as well. In some cases, peaches, which are very perishable and bruisable, were not packed properly and led to some damaged produce. But for the most part, we did get some very positive responses to the program. So we asked our customers whether they intended, or whether they would recommend the program to others. And we found that the price, the quality, and the variety were the most important factors in their decisions to recommend. Even though we thought that the location and the service would be very important, we found that actually it was not as important. So out of 1,000 inquiries, we got 45 comments or complaints. And we thought that was pretty good out of 1,000. And because of that, we were very optimistic about what this year was going to look like. And so we were planning for expansion into 2 more beach communities, one Carteret County, that's Emerald Isle, but probably the one that outsiders may be more familiar with is the circle in the northern part of the state. That is the Outer Banks, which is a very wealthy beach destination. So we were expecting to get a lot of response from those customers when we were able to open it up in the beach communities. And then we were also going to go west into Watauga County, which is in the mountains of North Carolina. We had conversations that were going on with Extension and with realtors there. We were anticipating that we were going to have 20 realties managing 5,000 units, and we expected to generate $120,000. But then COVID hit. As you know, that the North Carolina beaches closed for a while. They have been slowly reopening, but it's been very slow. And we have a slow start to our program. 2 of the realties have dropped out. We're finding that we are having to find public pickup sites because the realties don't want to have anything to do with possible liability issues because of the fact that there is, you know, some interaction, customer face-to-face interaction. And so we have had to pivot, as everyone else has. Our expansion efforts have pretty much stalled this year. I got a report that we are now at about 30% of what we did last year. We just opened it. Our first week was last Saturday. But we're hopeful that the market will pick up. One of the things that we have done is we have had trainings with our aggregators, and we have provided them with masks and gloves, and they have built hand sanitizer stations. So it's just all very interesting right now. And yeah, that's kind of where we are. We're hopeful that things are going to pick up. We have a new website here, and I will give you a link to this website. And I also want to show you a video that we did.
Becky, I'm not seeing a video here, FYI. I don't know if
you're not?
Still waiting for it to load.
Oh, okay.
I know when you share screen, there is an option to optimize for sharing video clips that you have to check off, perhaps.
Okay.
There we go.
Is it on? All right, I'll start it over again.
Great.
Can you hear it?
I don't hear anything yet.
Do you hear it now?
No, I think if you share, there's something at the bottom where you have to click on for audio.
Yeah.
Share through, yeah, sound through the computer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's a setting when you go to share your screen, so try
You will have to stop sharing.
try
and then-
resharing.
You have to stop sharing and then start over and click those 2 little boxes.
Okay.
I love the crowdsourcing of Zoom knowledge. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, well, I'm still trying to figure this out. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to hit here.
When you go to share your screen, you might need to stop sharing again. And then when you share, there are two check boxes in the dialog box it opens. One says share your audio also, and one says optimize for video sharing.
Oh, I see. Okay, optimize screen sharing and share computer sound. All right,
Yes.
let's try this again.
You got it.
All right, I'm gonna have to start over. Can everyone see it?
Yes. Yes.
All right, let's try again.
More and more people see the value of consuming fresh, healthy, and delicious local foods. They go to farmers markets, order produce boxes to their homes, and enjoy farm-to-table dining experiences. However, when people are on vacation, they are still interested in using fresh local food products, but don't know how to conveniently access it. Vacationer-supported agriculture works with local extension offices, farmers, and nonprofits to coordinate the supply of produce bags to be pre-sold for each week of the vacation season, and also works with vacation realty companies, homeowner associations, and local tourism boards to advertise the bags to people visiting the area. Here's how it works. Several weeks before the tourist season, vacationers are directed to a webpage where they can pre-buy bags of local produce. A week before arriving to the destination, the farmers provide a detailed list of the bag contents so the visitors can plan their provisions. Upon arrival to the destination, the vacationers can pick up their produce bag in a convenient location. Visit our website to learn more.
Okay, so that's what I have. I was just wondering if there are any questions.
And you can use chat for your questions, or you can unmute and go ahead and ask.
Hi, Becky. This is
Sure.
Melissa.
Yes, hi.
I'm curious to know what role Extension played and what role the nonprofit partner played specifically.
Okay, so campus came up with the idea, and we reached out to our county extension office in Brunswick County. And what they did is they, I'm not sure what all that noise is in the background, but I'm sorry. Is it, oh, here we go. Oh, sorry, YouTube was still going. Okay. All right, so Melissa. So Extension, Campus Extension reached out to the county offices, and the county office, what they do is they connect us with the farmers. They often organize the farmers to come and learn about the program, learn how they might participate in the program, provide produce. And then they also helped us identify who the aggregating, in one case, it's the nonprofit. In another case, it's just a farmer who is aggregating. And in some cases, actually last year, they had to help out with providing an intern to pick up some of the coolers that the bags were delivered at the various beaches. So they do play a very important role in making sure that everyone understands what their job is.
And then just to clarify too, if the farmer is the person that's stepping up to aggregate, did they get additional payment for that task?
Yes, so the way it works is the online retailer, which in our case is People First Provisions, and they're a startup from NC State. They make a payout to the aggregator. What the aggregator does is then go to the different farmers who are providing the supply and pays them whatever the agreed upon price is. And then whatever is left over is kept by the aggregator. And what we found is that actually the aggregator is doing quite well in terms of what they're being paid.
And then I'm going to let other people ask questions, but was there a certain like economy of scale where you felt like, okay, well, if we were able to, and maybe you're still figuring this out, but how many packages would have to be sold in order to make this work?
Right. So we're still trying to figure this out. The Brunswick County operation, they sold about 900 bags for the season, and they were able to pay for their costs.
Thank you. I'll open the floor now. Thank you.
Becky, we did get a question in through the chat. Did VSA start there in North Carolina, or is it part of a larger movement?
It started with us. You know, it was just an idea that came about when we were submitting the grant for actually a whole different project, sort of an afterthought, but it's the one that had legs. And yes, and we are trying to expand it. We actually have expanded it into the Outer Banks, but we just opened that market this week, so we don't know how it's going to go there.
That comment here, the cutting bleeding
Yes,
edge.
we are the cutting bleeding edge. It's you know, it's a great idea. It's a lot of hand holding. I will say that. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Becky. Round of applause for Becky. And next up, we have Julia Fryer from the University of Arkansas, who will be presenting on the Arkansas Hub and Spoke model of food innovation. So without further ado, Julia, I think you can go ahead and start sharing.
All right. Okay, thank you. So today, here on behalf of Dr. Andefelia Perez, she couldn't be here with us today, but I'll talk to you about how we have used existing rural infrastructure and our resource extension to create food innovation opportunities. We've done this through a hub and spokes model. So last year at this conference, Dr. Perez and Angela Gardner, of my colleagues, presented on the launch of this project. But for those of you that are unfamiliar with the project, I'm just going to go ahead and give a brief background. Dr. Perez has hosted some trainings across Arkansas at different locations, and a lot of the time she uses the county fairgrounds for her workshops. And she just realized one day that there was all this underutilized space at the fairgrounds. There were buildings and warehouses, and they were only being used once a year for the county fair, and then occasionally throughout the year for other events. So she thought, well, wouldn't this be a great place to have a certified commercial kitchen, because they already have concession kitchens. So she pitched this idea of converting the concession kitchens into the certified commercial kitchen to process value-added food products. And 3 of our counties agreed to this. They wanted that to happen. So Dr. Perez received funding from the USDA, and the Sharegrounds were born. So these facilities are at the Searcy County Fairgrounds in Marshall, the 3 County Fairgrounds in McCrory, and the Cleveland County Fairgrounds in Risen. And these are very rural communities. These facilities offer a variety of things, including produce aggregation, product and process development, value-added production, and regulatory assistance.
Julia, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want you to know that you're in the presenter mode. So we're seeing that presenter mode. It might be,
Okay.
yeah, thanks.
I don't actually know how to change that. Did that change it?
Yes.
Or do you still see it? Oh, that is weird. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so the goals of this project were to increase access and consumption of local foods in Arkansas by expanding utilization and capacity of fairgrounds for aggregation, distribution, and value-added product development. Additionally, we had goals of supporting local farms, developing and expanding opportunities for value-added food businesses, fostering the growth of regional food economies, and improving access to food in underserved communities and institutions. So though these counties are very rural, they're actually in really good locations for market reach. So each of the counties where our shareground kitchens are highlighted in red here on this slide. And as you can see, we have a population reach from about 250,000 people to 1.5 million people. And that's because we have access within this less than 100-mile radius to populations like Branson, Missouri, and Memphis, Tennessee. So that's really increasing their possible reach for products coming out of this kitchen. So during the first year of funding, the kitchens underwent some renovations so that they could get the permitting from the Arkansas Department of Health to be a commercial facility. You can see that we had a lot of work go into these, purchasing new equipment like kettles and Hobart choppers. We had to redo floors and walls and ceilings to make them cleanable. The Searcy County kitchen actually got new walls. We put those up to make a enclosed kitchen. And then we also bought stainless steel cleanable surfaces for all of the kitchens. So each of them had quite the transformation. So now that you've had a little background on what the share grounds are and how they came to be, I'm going to talk about the innovation model for this project. So this is a unique partnership through the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture and our fair associations. So this is the hub and spoke model, and it's really a partnership. The hub is the partnership between the Arkansas Food Innovation Center, which is through the Food Science Department at the University of Arkansas, and the partnership is with Extension, specifically the local, regional, and safe foods team, and our county extension agents for the counties where the share grounds are located. So the Arkansas Food Innovation Center, which we call AFIC, so if I say that, that's what I'm referring to, is a food processing facility in Fayetteville. So they have successfully created the certified commercial kitchen up in Fayetteville and have had clients come in, make their products, and have successfully entered the marketplace. So what we've really done with the share grounds is make these kitchens modeled after AFIC. So through this partnership, we also have access to the Food Science Department, which gives us access to a process authority, Dr. Morowicki. And then we also have access to the Horticulture Department for just troubleshooting and help in that area of farmer production questions. We also have support and recipe development testing and access to just all of the different types of testing, so the water activity and pH testing. So we have guidance and help through the Food Science Department there. But we really couldn't have gotten this project off of the ground if it wasn't for our county agents, because they are so plugged into their communities. They really helped promote and support this, this idea, and it took off and got a lot of great community support. So that's our hub, and then our spokes are our individual share ground kitchens. And this is a partnership with our fair boards for each of the fairgrounds. And we could not have done this without them. They have provided us with so much that we couldn't have done money-wise without their help. So they provided the facility, the actual kitchens and warehouses for whenever we're going to be aggregating produce, roads into the fairgrounds, equipment, labor. So they provided a huge part of this project for us. Now each of our county fairgrounds has, or our share grounds has, a on-site manager. And so their role is going to be to help clients get through all of the paperwork and permitting process. So they'll assist with the recipe development, the test batches, the scale up, and just be there to help the clients as they walk through this process of launching a food business. In order to really get new innovative food businesses off the ground, we applied for another grant through the Southern Extension Risk Management Education Program. And with this grant, we are going to be providing 15 businesses in Arkansas one-on-one assistance from to production. So we are hiring, we just recently hired 2 student interns from the Food Science Department at the U of A to be these one-on-one mentors with our clients. And they will just walk the client through the process of creating an idea for a product and then all the way to getting that out on the shelves. So as I said, our aim is to get 15 businesses into the marketplace, but we also want to utilize the Arkansas Made branding, which is through the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. We really want to promote the local food system through this program, so we would like to get all of our new products with this label on it. And we also want to get our products into places where they will succeed. So our local products really do well in local restaurants and small grocers. But after that, we'd love to see them expand their businesses to move beyond Arkansas's borders. And we hope to use our market connections to get them in with larger buyers like Walmart, or even moving online, which is really important during this time. But we hope to get them on different online markets and even Amazon. So we've already had great response to this project. We recently just did a webinar that was an introduction to food manufacturing and business in Arkansas. And the people that participated in this webinar were eligible to apply for this one-on-one mentoring. And we've already had over 20 clients interested in using the ShareGround facilities from that webinar, and then another workshop we hosted back in December. But you can see that we've had quite a range of ideas from the clients. So we've had everything from the salsas, pickles, jellies, to some really ideas. And I just wanted to highlight a few of these that I thought were really interesting. So we've had an idea for a soybean dip, which is great for Arkansas because soybeans are such a huge commodity in our state. Elderberry gummies and cricket flour were two really unique ones that I had not ever heard of. I've never heard of cricket flour. And then commercial honey, I also wanted to highlight. In order to sell honey on oil level, it must be bottled in a certified commercial kitchen. So we are planning to get piston fillers so that our beekeepers can start bottling their honey in our facility and enter a new marketplace. So to become a client, there is a process. It's on our website, uaex.edu/sharegrounds. And the first step of this is to do the homework. So we've provided a couple of different links for clients to go through and read about, is this a cottage food or a manufactured food? How do I start a business in Arkansas? And then more information on the ShareGrounds. And then after that, they fill out an online form, which we have linked on our website, to give us a little bit of information about what kind of product they're wanting to produce. Then they meet with the manager and have a client intake interview. So because COVID has affected the world we live in and everyone's having to make adjustments now, these are no longer required to be in person. So we are now allowing people to either have a phone call or a Zoom call with the ShareGrounds manager to do this process. We did just last week get permission to reopen our ShareGrounds. So we will have these opening up to where people can come in, but we do have strict social distancing guidelines. Of course, we have the 6-foot distance, the face mask, but we are only allowing one client per day to actually come into the facility. And then the managers are going to be sanitizing the facility before and after each client comes. So it's another hoop to jump through, but we're excited to get the doors open. So after they have that initial, they then go do their market research. We want them to find out how much it's going to cost them to make their product and the potential profits to make sure it's a viable business. We're estimating that a new business is going to cost anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to start up because of all of the permitting fees and just the cost of materials. So after that, they then need to purchase FLIP insurance, so the food liability insurance. And once they get that in place, they can then use the kitchen. So they can come schedule a time to do a trial run where they go through the process with the manager so that they can see how it works. Again, since COVID has changed things and we have limited access to the kitchens, we're now allowing for people to do this from their home kitchen. They can do the process there, but they need to Zoom with the manager so that they can see what's going on. And then the manager will help them develop the standard operating procedures, the sanitation standard operating procedures, and any other documents that they'll need for the production of for their products. And they can do this again over a phone call or Zoom. And then we also have access to the food science department virtually with phone or Zoom if they have any hard questions they need help answering. They then need to get a product label created, which AFIC has that ability to make those nutrition labels for a nominal fee. And then after that, they go through the paperwork process with the health department to get their commercial processing permit. And once they have that in hand, they give a copy to the Sharegrounds manager, and they can start producing product commercially. So a couple of other things we've had to do just because of COVID, we've had to make a couple more adjustments that we weren't originally planning for. All of our managers recently went through the online ServSafe training. So they are all certified, and we are not requiring all of our clients to go through this because of accessibility to the course right now. But if they want to work without supervision in the kitchens, then we will require them to get ServSafe certified. We are also working on a series of video trainings. So we've recorded some webinars and some different training workshops so that the clients will have access to that online so that they can learn more about food safety and manufacturing, since we can't have our in-person workshops like we normally do. So even though COVID has delayed our opening a little, we're really excited to get people into these kitchen things produced. So through this innovative hub and spoke model, we hope to see economic opportunities in our rural communities, not just for the clients actually producing the product, but for the fair associations. We're hoping that they will potentially have a revenue stream from renting out this kitchen to the clients. We also hope that the client focus on product development and production will increase by creating a novel product, increasing our cold chain storage capacity, and building those relationships with distribution so that we have an outlet for these products. But ultimately, we are hoping to strengthen the rural-urban linkages because, again, we are uniquely located with our share grounds so that we have access to those large urban centers. And we hope to do this linkage through the one thing that seems to really bring everyone together, and that's food. So this is our team. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Dr. Perez. She is the Food Systems and Safety Specialist. Angela Gardner is the Program Manager for the Share Grounds Project. And of course, you can also reach out to me. Visit our website for more information on Share Grounds. And with that, I will stop share and take any questions.
Thanks, Julia. Just a reminder for our attendees, you can enter questions into the chat or unmute yourself and ask. And I will ask a question while we see if other questions come forward. I haven't heard of that ServSafe certified program. I'm sorry if lots of other people have, but I thought maybe if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to give a little more information on that.
Yeah, so the ServSafe training is something that people in the food industry through months for kitchen work. So it's really just, I'm not super familiar with it, but it's for education on food safety and food handling practices. So since they would get such a good overview of food safety and how to handle food products, we want them to go through this training.
Great, thanks. Any other questions for Julia? Okay, one came in through the chat. Where did the mentors come from?
So for the new grant, the one-on-one mentors you're talking about, we just posted a internship program through the food science department at the U of A and had students that needed an internship to complete their food science degree apply. And so we interviewed and chose 2 different students to be the mentors for this. And of course, they're going to be learning as they go too. So they have access to Dr. Threlfall, who works with AFIC, and she is in the food science department. They have access to us. So we'll be helping them along the way, but we're really expecting our student interns to do a lot of the research and help our clients.
Kristen, I do have a question. I'm from Pennsylvania. We have some shared incubators, especially kitchen facilities. Is that something that's lacking, or do they have those also in Arkansas that are run by other organizations?
There are a few. So there's one here in Little Rock. It's a private organization. And then there is one in, I think it's in West Memphis, which is right on the border. So we really don't have a lot. We now just have those two that I'm aware of, the Arkansas Food Innovation Center in Fayetteville, and now our share grounds.
So there was probably a need then for you to reach out to
Yes, and we've
these
had
county fairgrounds to set them up. Okay.
yes, we've had so many people requesting that we put a share grounds in their county because they're still not super accessible. If it's more than 2 hours away from someone, they don't want to make that drive. So we've had a lot of people in the River Valley area, so Western Arkansas, calling Dr. Perez going, can you put one in our county, please? So there is definitely a demand for it.
Julie, we had another question come in through the chat. How are user fees established, and do they cover total costs, or are the costs subsidized?
So right now, the costs are going to be subsidized through the grant. The fees were established, Dr. Perez and Angela really worked on that, I think with the help of the Arkansas Food Innovation Center. So we do have just a standard hourly fee that we charge to rent the facility. I think it's $20 an hour. And then there are fees for the testing, so pH and acidity, water activity. So there's a fee structure. I think you can find that on our Sharegrounds website as well. Was there a second part to that question, or was it just how is it structured? I think I answered that. We're hoping, though, that eventually these are self-sustaining and that the money that the Sharegrounds are bringing in can pay the manager and all of the overhead costs.
Great, thanks. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. If questions occur to people, you can enter them in the chat. I think our speakers will be on for the whole session. Okay, well, I think then it makes sense to move on to our next speaker. Jae-Yoon Koo from the University of Kentucky will be talking to us today about fine arts extension programming impacts and implications for creative placemaking in cooperative extension service. That looks great. Thanks, Jae-Yoon.
Thank you, Kirsten. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Jae-Yoon Koo from University of Kentucky Department of Landscape Architecture. We also have Melissa Bond, who's the Fine Arts Extension Program leader with us. She is calling in, and we have a couple of agents that are also in the room today. But for the presentation itself, we also have a third author who's not here with us today, but she's the research director with Community and Economic Development of Kentucky. And we're all affiliated with the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, and I'm also a faculty with the Community and Economic Development of Kentucky. Today, we are going to present one part of a project that we are being funded by the National Endowment of the Art. For this grant, we are also partnering with NACDEP ourselves. The Arts and Placemaking Core of SETIC is kind of leading this understanding of how has the Fine Arts program in Kentucky have been performing, and how can our learnings be applicable and disseminated to other peers in NACDEP throughout the country. And the big concept that we are trying to hone down our learnings is related to creative placemaking. So for today's presentation, I'm going to briefly introduce our overall project goal, and then later in the presentation where we are with the second part of our grant. But the majority of today's presentation, we're going to focus on what we found and what we learned through research. So as I mentioned, today's presentation is part of a larger project to understand creative placemaking, how creative placemaking is being put forward through cooperative extension programming efforts, particularly through the fine arts programs in Kentucky. And eventually how we think cooperative extension's capacity can support community and economic development efforts through community investments and strengthening of livability through creative placemaking. So for our overall project, we're doing a research that is providing evidence to support some of the activities we are exerting and developing into a toolkit that could be applicable to our peers throughout the country. And ultimately, we plan to share this through NACDEP, our websites, and through e-extension. But ultimately, the overall goal is to share how art and culture serve as engines for community and economic development through what extension does well. So developing programs and activities to educate and guide for the betterment of our communities. So before I further tread through, I just wanted to kind of briefly share what we're talking about when we talk about creative placemaking. So out of a lot of different definitions and a couple of different disciplines that work around this idea of creative placemaking, I'm honing it down back to Markuson and Godwa's explanation of what creative placemaking can do. It can animate public and private spaces, rejuvenate structures, build environments, improve local businesses, their viability, safety, but also bring people together to celebrate, inspire, and also be inspired based on their identities and heritage. If you look for some simpler definitions, it could be kind of honed down to any type of artistic or creative effort to make a particular community stronger, holding bonds together. Among a lot of different benefits that creative placemaking can bring about, I believe the focus of some of our programs and activities have been to ultimately to help foster entrepreneurs in the cultural industries, but also train the next generation of cultural workforce. And that kind of translate to educating our youth, educating our participants through our local offices. So with that, I'm going to let Melissa kind of share where the Fine Arts Extension Program in Kentucky has been evolving and developing till today.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Bond. I'm the Arts Extension Program Leader for University of Kentucky. And the Arts Extension Program has been around for 15 years in Kentucky. And we tried to emulate the model of what it could look like to have a county-based agent in a community doing direct arts engagement, similar to the 4-H, FCS, and agriculture models that exist already in Kentucky. It was a partnership between the College of Fine Arts at the university and the College of Agriculture, where the two deans got together and just said, hey, is there a way we can use the structure that's already in place in Extension to spread this arts development across the state, mostly in our rural communities that don't have access to the university to attend a lot of the arts programming that exists there. This particular project has developed because over time we were really learning as we were working on this. The fun thing about the Arts Extension Program is there was not really a model for us to rely on. So it was a lot of learning on our own, or trial and error, or learning about the research that exists and how we can apply it to our own communities. So this project specifically zeroed in on the aspects of the agent's role that strengthens community development in creative placemaking. But I do want to share a little bit about what the agents do outside of that as a whole picture. The program's mission is to simply create and support opportunities in the arts for all citizens that the agents work with. And since the creation of the program, we've implemented some other approaches beyond just having a county-based agent. We do have 3 communities that have a county-based agent, but we also have state-level specialists as well. So in Kentucky, for the timeline, in 2005, we started in Pike County, Kentucky, which is the furthest east community in the state. And it was really the pilot program. It was the model that we worked with to develop all the data and track it. And that agent specifically had a theater background, and that county was working on developing theater engagement. So the fun thing about the arts model is that it really relies on the agent's discipline specialties and what the county needs. It's very grassroots, the way it's defined. In Greenup County in 2007, they hired their first arts agent. That's also in Eastern Kentucky, and it's part of the Country Music Highway. So if you listen to country music at all, there's several artists that are from that community that are known nationally that are celebrated there. So that agent has an arts background. In another county, Whitley County in Southeast Kentucky, the emphasis in that community was on visual arts. They were really trying to provide visual arts access to communities, especially to fill in the gap where schools were losing funding to have arts education. And so they hired an agent to do visual arts there. So over the years, the program has really been flexible and evolved based on what the needs of the local county are. And we've also hired some regional specialists. We had one under a 2-year grant who focused on arts in the creative economy and really working with artists to enhance their economic profiles by having more opportunities to sell, by accessing online trainings and in-person trainings on marketing themselves and their products, and linking these artists to wholesale arts locations if they were in rural communities, to arts galleries in Louisville and Lexington, which are our largest metro areas, to help them access more, a higher dollar per product that they sell. So over the years, we've just really evolved to respond to the needs both in the state and locally. We also recently have expanded the program to focus on the intersection between arts and opioid use in the state, and how we can use arts as a platform for connection to help individuals who have experienced opioid use disorder. For the next slide, it's just an example of one of our logic models that we work with, and how we integrate into the extension structure as much as possible, while also realizing that arts is such a dynamic field that there's not as much research out there. So we've been lucky to have the opportunity to create some of that research, and that's the project that Jae Young has been leading us through at this time. Overall, the way that we've really defined creative placemaking in our program, we feel like there's 2 significant pillars that we have, which is the creative placemaking access. And that's really looking at the way communities and cultures define themselves and enhancing that and growing that and building on the strengths of their local assets in the place. We try to focus on being culturally aware and very flexible as we do that. We have many creative workers in our field and in our local communities who have always been doing creative work and entrepreneurship, but they just didn't have a formal structure to access more education or support in that way. So we try to fill that gap. There are several different initiatives in Eastern Kentucky and throughout the state that I'm sure you all can think of cultural or arts initiatives in your own state that would apply, such as a barn quilt trail, or local and regional community theaters, mural development that really showcases the identity and region in a community and highlights strengths in those communities. And storytelling is a really big one in Kentucky too. There's a strong storytelling heritage that we're very proud of, and this oral tradition that's been passed down, and we like to highlight that as well. These are ways to really expose citizens to new ways to view their community, but also to identify that opportunity where citizens can respond to the art by taking action and taking the next step. And we believe that that transformation of activating citizens is really, really valuable and a key element of our programming. Overall, we feel like this is such a new field that it is a moving target. And so a lot of our research has been based on analyzing so many different inputs that we've had our agents collect over the years, just to see what comes out and what type of opportunities we can share with other states as strong models. Jae Young, is there anything else I need to add?
I think we're great. Thanks, Melissa.
Absolutely.
So I'll move on to what today's presentation is more so focusing on. So as I mentioned, and as Melissa has been presenting to you all, the Kentucky Fine Arts program efforts has attracted a lot of interest from a lot of other states. We have been presenting at NACDEP, among other presentations. However, there hasn't been an effort to date to systematically analyze the impact of the programs themselves. So through this grant, we're aiming to share what we have learned from our work internally throughout, and then eventually to share what we have learned in terms of the successes of the Fine Arts Extension Program that could be shared throughout the country. We believe collectively the program, the information that we have collected and analyzed can have information that can be applicable to, in relation to creative placemaking efforts and endeavors in extension programming elsewhere. So those are roughly the goals that we have in mind for the research portion of our efforts and how we did the research part. So for today, we're going to be sharing the first part of the research method because our second part actually has been stalled because of COVID to some degree. But the first big picture that we were trying to understand was, as agents have been collecting a lot of information in terms of what they programmed for to deliver and what in terms of they have actually been successful in terms of delivering, we tried to link those program plans and success stories in terms of what have we done successfully. And these information are coming from our internal states reporting system that the agents have been reporting to for the last 14 years. And we've structured all the qualitative information and tried to understand how and what we're seeing from that linkage so that we could share with other peers who would like to or have been already been embarking on the efforts. So what we did was as we were going through all these program plans, over 200, close to 250 program plans, close to 250 success stories, which were qualitative in nature because they're narratives, we found that in the earlier years, the program plans were categorized under a few number of topics, such as community and economic development, tourism and arts, or health, nutrition or wellness. It wasn't geared just fine-tuned to the arts. In between the years, there were a couple of years where arts in the community became a featured program within extension efforts. But throughout the whole time, we found through the reporting system that the major program areas have expanded from 3 type of categories to more than 12 that are relevant for our arts agents to report under. So what we did was we aimed to measure the success of the programs based on the fixed effect model. The data itself was aggregated dependent on the major area program titles by year and organized as a cross-sectional time series based on the county and over the 14-year time frame. Now, as I mentioned, we read through more than 250 program plans and success stories, but what we also found was there were years when agents reported on their successes without any plans that they had planned to actually deliver. But then there were years where they had some plans laid out, but they didn't report on any successes based on the plans or activities that they had thought they were going to deliver. So we kind of cleaned up the data and kind of focused on the linkages where we had evidence and evident evidence that there was a linkage between the program plan, what was planned to be delivered, and what was actually delivered, and tried to look into what categories were those more so reported under that we could further fine-tune in our second part of the research. Another part of data that we tried to pull into the model for the analysis was including some of the demographic data. So the agents have also been reporting their statistical context based on age, gender, and ethnicity, but for the purpose of our analysis, we focused on the gender percentage and the age groups. This is an example of how we are pulling through data to look into the connection or the linkages between your county, major area program, and then the success stories. Now, in between, there are other information that we were trying to decipher, but through the analysis itself, we didn't find any clear information that we were able to pull through for this part of the research. And then going back to, so what program plans and how many success stories have we've been looking into. As Melissa mentioned, our first agent was hired in 2005. She started to report in 2006. So over the years, there has been an increase of program plans because there have been more agents within the other counties, and how they have then succeeded in terms of increasing their activity plans and also reporting on what they have accomplished. Same with success stories. Each year they have reported on different activities, different successes, and a different level of impact, whether it was short-term, intermediate, or long-term. And in terms of the demographics information, we kind of used some of the aggregated percentages for each county, and this is an example of the percentage overall of the adults versus youth participation rates, but also the gender, so male, female, identified, self-reported gender distribution in terms of some of those participants. So what we did was, in aggregate, we ran a regression model, and we kind of found that the results showed a lot of the program plans fell definitely under performing arts and performing and visual arts, because we were focusing more on the creative placemaking efforts. However, we also found that a lot of these program plans and success stories also lined up with community and economic development efforts, or also as an allied applicable topic, tourism and economic development. Now, over the years, as I mentioned, programming titles also grew in numbers, but also expanded in terms of some of the details or specifics of the arts. For example, there was, as I shown, one program plan in the first year versus over the years across the counties, it increased to 12. Now, in terms of the result itself, as I mentioned, we did run a regression briefly based on the map titles, but also some of the variables of how many success stories have they reported on, percentage of gender participation, and then the age groups by county and year. And we found that overall, in terms of the preliminary results, we found that overall, it was kind of interesting that percent of female was the only variable with a significant negative impact in terms of the diversified major area program titles. But we were able to interpret that this would make sense, because in a lot of activities, there were a lot more females that were participating, but also one thing that we were not able to notice or gather for this part of the research was that for some of these success stories, the agents reported one program area, but that year, that agent could have actually delivered more than one session. So there could have been a repetition in terms of the number of participants or demographics that participated. And a lot of times, our fine arts programs, anecdotally, kind of are a lot more females tend to kind of participate in the programs. Now, that was one leg of the research, but as I mentioned, COVID has interfered with our second part of research that we have been scheduling to get out into, and that part was actually getting to the local county agents to further gather information in terms of the repetition of programs and further detail of who actually participated in the programs, which from the aggregated data that we were not able to decipher. But as a groundbreaking foundation from the findings that we found that although these agents or our fine arts agents may have been trained in a narrowly defined fine arts subcategory or a discipline, As the years went by, and with their interest and efforts, but also their collaborations at the local level, they have expanded their areas of expertise and programming to include some variation of creative placemaking efforts. I share a kind of example of a jury class in Whitley County. They started off with very strong visual arts trained agents, but over the years, they're doing a little bit more diversified in terms of arts related activities. Also, what we've found were that in a number of counties, our fine arts agents have also been hosting markets, whether it's arts market, nights markets, where artists and participants have opportunities to participate in more so the entrepreneur aspect of creative placemaking. Some other implications that we could share with is that a lot of these efforts can easily be replicated through extension in other states, whether it's through the direct hiring of fine arts agents or whether it's collaborations with art educators, artists, or volunteers with arts background within their local and regional context. Also, we're finding that creative placemaking has, as evidence, at least from our Kentucky experiences, that it can be integrated into extension efforts. And we see that it can easily be also applicable to extension efforts in other counties and states, which can also bolster the community economic efforts of their needs. The last part of our presentation I would like to share is that we are fine-tuning our toolkit that we have developed based on the evidences, and we are including series of activities and also evaluation frameworks in this toolkit. Another part of our project that we were going to present during NACDEP this week, but we have postponed, is that we will share a webinar with NACDEP in the fall related to the workshop aspect of our project. With that said, it is kind of early, but if you are interested in a hard copy of our toolkit, please reach out to myself or Melissa or anyone in Kentucky SEDIC so that once we get this published, which we are aiming for early 2021, that we could actually mail this out to your office or your extension levels at your organizations.
Great, thank you, Jae Young and Melissa. We do have a few minutes left for questions, and you can enter them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. And while we wait, give people a couple minutes to type. I do just want to mention, you mentioned all the ways in which you'll share the toolkit, and I'd like to just remind you and others on the webinar that your regional rural development centers are happy to share such resources too. So feel free to your Southern Rural Development Center when that toolkit's ready for prime time. Any questions for Jae Young or Melissa?
We also have Anne, I think, and Christy, who are actually agents in Greenup and Pike County. If there aren't any questions, we could also ask Anne and Christy to share their experiences at their local levels, if that's fine with the rest of the group too.
Sure, we have 2 minutes left in this session, but Anne or Christy, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hi, this is Christy Porter. I'm the Fine Arts Agent in Pike County, Kentucky. I've been the agent now for about 2 months, but I served as the assistant for almost 10 years now. My extension with Fine Arts, or my experience with Fine Arts has been, just amazing. I started with the pilot program, so I came in about 5 years after the agent, Stephanie, had started it, but we've had programs, community theater. We started an arts marketplace. We've had a series of night markets. Really just anything arts related you can think of. Anything that anybody came with us for an idea, we just kind of greenlighted and said, yeah, let's explore that. So, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Well, I would just like to take our last minute here to thank all of our speakers today, and thanks everyone for attending. If there aren't any more questions, I think we have a lunch break before our 1:30 closing session. I'd like to encourage everyone to attend that so we can honor our NACDEP colleagues who are receiving national awards, and to conclude this awesome conference. Thanks again.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Bye.